Hey everybody! Welcome back to the ABCs of RPGs, where we teach you the basics of tabletop role-playing games. My name is Spencer, I'm going to be the game master for today, and we are playing the Dune RPG. It is the RPG made by Modiphius. They do a bunch of different IPs, including Dune. But even though they've done a ton of different IPs, let me tell you, this is a very well done Dune RPG. We're going to get more into it, but before we go in any further, let me go ahead and introduce my players. Christian.
Hello, my name's Christian. Yeah, and I got into Dune pretty late in my life. I started reading the first book and never finished it because I'm good with that, doing that for a lot of different mediums. And then I saw part one and part two, the most recent films. So, just being such a big fan of Denis' work, so that's really where I got into the world, and yeah, I'm excited to try it out in RPG form. So, um, and I will throw it on over to the next person. I don't know the order
Yeah, it doesn't
on
matter.
screen,
Whoever.
but Nye, take it away.
Hey, I'm Mike. I've been here before. I was with Lancer. What is my connection to Dune?
Yeah.
I don't really have a whole lot of connection. I've seen the first movie. I saw it on Netflix back in like December when I went home for the holidays. And that's about it. I wanna start reading the books. I want to get more into it because it seems good. I like things that have like way too much fucking lore
Oh.
for just absolutely no reason.
That
other
is
than the
Dune.
fact they're like, what if I just add more? Plus, I like spacey stuff. So examples of things I like are like Star Wars and Star Trek that just have like way too much lore for absolutely no reason, but they're spacey. And this is a spacey thing with way too much lore.
Yep.
So I'm excited to like learn more about it as I go.
Yeah.
But also to kind of the little I know about it, like if you just watch part one without having any knowledge about like Dune or like the Dune universe or whatever, they just like throw stuff at you. They just start throwing names and they're just like, here's a thing you just got to know. And then they just like keep rolling on and you just got to pick it up.
Yep.
I'm hoping that I'll be able to like learn some of these things by being forced to interact with them. But we'll find out as we go.
Yeah, especially being thrown into an RPG.
And that will lead us to Justin.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Justin. My pronouns he, him. I got exposed to Dune when I was a little kid. Dude, exposed itself to me, well, kind of.
Exposed to the spice.
That was the David Lynch and Kyle MacLachlan version.
That was your first experience?
Yeah. I was like a little kid, and it was like on Sci-Fi, the Sci-Fi Channel. Because Dune was on the Sci-Fi Channel all the time when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the many movies that fucked me up. But yeah. No, I mean, I've been down to ride a sandworm since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, as they say.
That's awesome. Yeah, my connection with Dune. So I actually read the book before I saw any of the movies. I only read the book like 5 or 6 years ago because I was getting into audiobooks and I wanted to find out, like, I like fantasy. I read all of the Game of Thrones. I read a bunch of those different books, and I knew that like Dune is like a pillar in the sci-fi kind of genre, right? And so I listened to the book, and I was not expecting how detailed and thorough it would be. I'm not going to spoil anything because part two just came out, and some people haven't seen all of part two yet, especially Nye. But it was a book that I thought was good until the very end, and then the ending, I was like, oh no, this is a great book. It was interesting because this isn't too much of a spoiler, but the ending of part two leads into the future, which the first Dune book definitely felt like a complete journey. So I'm very excited to kind of see like what else is going to come in the future. I haven't read any more of the Dune books. I know they get pretty wild. I'm pretty excited for that. I've seen Dune parts 1 and 2 that just came out, and I've seen the David Lynch 1980s version of Dune, and that is a wild trip. Nah, you were saying that it just throws terms and stuff at you. That movie did both parts in one movie.
Yeah, I literally, again, my only interaction with Dune is watching the movie back in December. Like, I knew people talked about it, and I knew they said it was good, and it was like, Space was like, throw it on.
Yeah.
Just kind of watching the background kind of thing. And they're like, oh yeah, here's the Bene Gesserit, the House Harkonnens, you got to know the Atreides. By the way, there's this whole planet, Arrakis, full of spice, you got to know that. And they're just like, throwing shit. They just like, keep going. And then, of course, fucking Space Jesus' name is Paul.
Yes.
Of all the things
Yeah.
that he's just made up, the author made up names, like, Paul. This is it.
I mean,
Space Jesus is going to be Paul.
You're talking about a book that has all these crazy sci-fi characters, and one of them is named Duncan, Idaho.
Yeah. Yep. And it's just nuts that he comes up with, there's a fucking war between humans and computers because God forbid the computers take over. This dude's name is Duncan, Idaho. We got Paul.
Yep. Main character, Paul. His last name's sci-fi, but yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's awesome.
I'm
We need to normalize having just regular names.
regular names in sci-fi.
And just not in fantasy in general.
Yeah.
This is the chosen one. He is Jim.
All hail Jim.
Our chosen one name is
More
Jim.
relatable,
Yeah, what's his name supposed to be? Like Ragnarok flamethrower? Like, fuck off. What? No.
No, I would not follow a Ragnarok
Jim
flamethrower.
Cooper.
It sounds cool,
Yeah.
but I trust Jim to take care of me.
Yeah, Jim Cooper's gonna take care of you.
Everybody knows that
Ragnarok
Jim, right?
flamethrower? No, that's like real life Charlie Day. You don't know what he's gonna do.
He's too much of a wild card.
Too much a wild card. I'm a wild card. Why would anyone want that, Charlie?
So, we are going to be playing the Dune Quick Start. It is called Worm Sign. So that's what I'm going to be taking our players through. The Quick Start's great in the sense because it actually technically takes place before the Dune Part 1 and the book. It is during Harkonnen rule over Arrakis, which is the desert planet that the main movie and book takes place on. It is set technically before both of those events, and it's open to it being, you guys could be House Atreides, or you could be your own house. And one of the coolest parts about the Dune RPG is that you can build your own house. And that's why I want to walk you guys through. You can build your own house, you can make your own characters, and while it sets you up, like, you can definitely be, like, insert yourself into the Paul Atreides kind of, like, storyline and everything like that. You don't have to. You can be a completely different house. And there's different sizes of levels of houses and stuff. And that's what I'm really excited to kind of do in this Session 0, is that even though the Dune Quick Start isn't too long of an adventure, it really is a quick start, I think it's still fun to really get in, build a house, and to kind of build your own characters, because I think the Dune RPG does a really good job at inserting you into the world, into the setting, and kind of going off from there. So that's why I'm excited. The adventure is going to take place on Arrakis. You guys kind of dealing with some spice smugglers, but we're just going to go over and do some, we're going to create a house and create some characters. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over so I can kind of show the Dune Quick Start on our screen. Before we start making a house everything, you guys kind of have a familiarity with Dune already, and I would argue, just like Nye, like you were saying, you had a lot of terms thrown at you. I would argue that while you'll definitely get enjoyment out of this more if you're already familiar with the Dune lore and kind of what happens, because you get to insert yourself into it, I still think it's a great system in a cool setting that people who are unfamiliar with Dune could be kind of like thrown in, much like Nye, like you were thrown into the movie, and kind of picks up as things happen. As long as the game master is kind of like filling in the details, letting you know what your character probably already knows, then I think everything would be fine. The book does give some good reference material too on how the world is kind of set up. Even in this introduction, it mentions, like you said, Nye, that many, many years ago, humanity was enslaved by its own creation, thinking machines. Like, it tells you about that right at the beginning, which is pretty cool, and gives you, like, a quick little quick basics on the rules, or the history of Dune.
Y'all, The
Yes.
Matrix is just a prequel franchise.
To Dune. It's about after
Ooh.
Neo saves everybody, and then we leave Earth.
Yeah, and then they're like, never again. Yeah, I mean, Earth is useless.
Yeah.
So we, of course, set off in search of new homes.
Oh man, that's gonna be my headcanon now. Oh, perfect. Dune as an RPG, I would argue it is simpler in complexity than 5th edition of D&D. But if people who are familiar with Cats of Cthulhu, or those who have watched it on our channel, our playthrough, it is more complex than that. It's not as rules light as Cats of Cthulhu. Imagine D&D's skill checks that you normally do. That is the main mechanic that you do in the game, and it just kind of carries that through all the way, even into combat. It is different. Let me be clear. It is different from D&D's skill proficiencies, but that's kind of it. There is the basic test that you kind of use throughout anything you do. I want to go over just a few different things about that, and then we can kind of get more into the house rules and stuff. But what Modiphius uses, this is their 2d20 system. This is a system that the reason why it's called 2d20 is that whenever me as the game master calls upon you to make a roll, you're usually going to grab 2d20s. But you,
crazy.
I know, right? What? It's in the name.
D20s is 1d20 too many.
It's
Dude, I would have never expected the amount of die you would use. That's nuts.
Yeah. It can go up to 5d20s, actually. So it gets even crazier. But the reason why you always start with 2d20s, and if you imagine this, much like how we played Werewolf the Apocalypse, you are rolling for successes. So how you're going to do your skill check, you're going to get different difficulties of a range between 0 and 5, which most tests are between 1 and 2. So that just means you need 1 or 2 successes to usually do the thing that you want to do. So you're going to have character sheets, you're going to have numbers on there, and what you're doing is you're always going to add what's called a drive and a, what's it called? Not a focus, a skill. A drive and a skill together, and then that's going to be a target number that you're actually, when you're rolling your d20s, you're trying to get the number under that. So, forever ago, when we played Symborum, which was a d20 roll under system, and Call of Cthulhu, you're adding those numbers together and always trying to get under that number to get successes. And me as the DM is saying how many successes you need in order to do the thing. And that's the basics of it. That's really the basics of, like, the whole system. Combat, we'll go into that when we get to it and everything, but, like, you're just grabbing at least 2d20s or buying more to get up to 5, and then rolling that and trying to get successes based on that. We'll go over more about the skills and drives and stuff like that when we get to your characters, but I just wanted to kind of at least explain the basic kind of test that there is for Dune. From there, I'm probably just going to go into the house rules and everything, and we can start making our house, but do you guys have any questions about that basic test or any clarifications on such?
No?
Good. I'm doing my job right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Does anybody else have any questions? No?
I'm good.
Yeah. It always seems complicated at first just because, like, rolling under is, like, the opposite of what you do in D&D. So you're always just like thinking about like, oh, how can I get my number higher or and everything. But this is the complete opposite, which sometimes screws with people's heads a little bit. But I think if you learn this system, because Modiphius has done so many other IPs as well, you kind of know the basics for a lot of different things, which is cool. And I think it's a neat system. I'm really curious to kind of see how it all rolls out. how when we start doing checks and tests and all that, how it's gonna play out and everything. But I'm very excited. Yeah. So if we turn our over, whoops, that's not a page number. If we go over to the Dune rulebook, which I have pulled up here, we're flipping over to the Dune rulebook because the quick start has pre-made characters. So we're flipping over to the Dune core rulebook to kind of go over more, like going into the rules and how to make our houses and stuff. And just to let you know, the first 85 pages, I'm not sure how well it kind of appears on screen. The first 85 pages, like you have a small 12-page introduction, but then it has from page 15 to 85 is all of the Dune lore that you can know, that you can read about before you get into the rules. And it's really cool because me and Christian actually has a friend who has read all of the Dune books, and I showed him this book, and his response to it was, wow, this is a great refresher for everything. I forgot some of the stuff that was in here. So I thought that was really cool to kind of hear about his experience and kind of experiencing that. So, but yeah, starting on page 85, we got creating your house. Now, all of my players here, I've asked to download the Dune house sheet. This is included if you bought the rulebook. It's all the way in the back, but digitally, it should also come with. I believe they offer all of the character sheets for free on Modiphius' webpage. I'll double check that, but you should be able to download it. And yeah, the cool part about your house is that it's very much like up to whatever you guys want to do for this. Whatever you guys kind of want to make, you get to make it. It's pretty cool. Just to give kind of a background, so you have an idea of the adventure you're kind of going into, if you want to create your house around that. I mentioned that currently Arrakis is still owned by the Harkonnens' house, so it's before Atreides gets control over Arrakis. So your house has procured a mining agreement for spice on Arrakis, and the Harkonnens, they gave you probably the worst land, the least amount of spice area you could get, but they're like, sure, we'll cut you a deal. Have the worst land that we could possibly let you have, but your house is going there to kind of mine your own spice to kind of get a little bit. So you're currently having a contract and everything. So basically, as you make your house, you get to decide first on like how big it is. You get to decide on like your domain, what you want your primary source of income to be. You get to define your house roles, and you can even have enemies, which is pretty cool. You get to make your own nemesis house, just like House Harkonnen is against House Atreides and such. So, but making your house is a group effort. The game definitely assumes that all of the players are in the same house one way or another. So that is something that we're kind of doing together. Much like we did in Avatar Legends when we were kind of making our Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 kind of backstory, it's the same thing. So the first thing you guys are kind of going to decide together is how big you want your house, which is everything from a nascent house, a house minor, a house major, to a great house, which a great house is like Atreides Harkonnen type style. I don't want to dictate too much about what you guys should do, but when I peeked ahead to see what kind of things you kind of get and everything, having a great house sounds like something like new players want to jump in immediately, but it comes with a lot of negative stuff. Like your enemy's going to be really powerful. You may get more stuff, but you'll have like more people coming at you. The game master gets more threat at the beginning of a session, so I would recommend to you guys probably starting out with a house minor. You could do a nascent house, But I think a house miner is great because you kind of get like one of everything that's available for your house. So
Yeah, reading about it, it kind of felt like for those that are familiar with 5e, I think that D&D like says levels 1 through 5 are like the beginning levels, 5 through 10 or like 6 through 10 are like medium, and like each like 5 is increasingly hard. It's kind of what these houses sounded like, of like being a great house, you kind of start at level 15, so you get a lot of really cool shit. But like if you don't know what you're doing, your enemies also have really cool shit.
yeah, yeah,
So
Yeah.
I was thinking
Having the cool
a house
stuff is not
miner,
going to save you
but
from a purple worm.
yeah, right.
yeah, yeah. I was
You
thinking
gotta
a
know how to
house
fight one
miner
of those things.
just because, again, a nascent house. It sounds like playing almost on easy mode
Yeah,
or like the tutorial. I think house
Yeah.
miner at least gets us like in the game, kind of like playing on the normal difficulty of something.
yeah. You guys are all experienced RPG players, so I think you could definitely handle a house miner, especially for this. But it's up to you.
No, house miner. It is decided.
It is decided. Great. Christian, you're okay with that too. I don't want to skip over you.
He's outvoted. Doesn't matter. He has a good voice.
No!
No opinion.
No, we need to share democracy.
Spoken.
No, you
It
can
is
say it, but you're
democracy.
outvoted, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can vote. It just doesn't matter.
I still want to hear
Like,
Christian's vote.
In the words of Taylor Swift, go vote.
Okay, all right. You get to say your
Oh,
thing.
Whoa,
Say
let's
your
not
vote.
get political, Nye.
Christian,
Yeah.
what's your vote?
That's so democratic of you. How dare you? No, that's fine.
Okay, cool. So once you
Great.
kind
You're in the majority.
everybody has a voice. So once you've kind of decided that, as we kind of go into the next steps of your house, that's going to determine the different kind of benefits you'll see. So let's go ahead and go to the next page, because as you can see, boom, right at the top of page 87, it's already talking about house type and threat. And so nascent house, like I said, it's like tutorial mode, so you don't get any starting threat. But for a minor house, threat is generated 1 per player. And we haven't really talked about threat and momentum yet. But there is a shared pool between all players called momentum, which you'll get for every kind of like success you get over in a check. So if you get more successes than you need for something, that's always going to be beneficial because it generates momentum in the pool. Story-wise, you can think about it like if you are trying to hack into... now, that's a bad example. There's no thinking machines here. If you are... Let's see here. If you're in a fight and you roll more successes than you need, you could think of it as kind of like getting them, like pushing them back on their feet, right? You generate momentum to kind of propel yourself forward, and you can use that momentum for a variety of different things, but most of the time, it's going to be buying d20s to add to your pool. You always start with 2 d20s for the skill check, for the skill test, but you use momentum to buy more d20s to add to that pool, which is really great. So it's kind of like something that helps you later on. Like maybe you're trying to spot a desert, like a worm in the desert, and so depending on how well you roll will help you later on because you can better dodge out of the way of the worm because you're able to spot it earlier before. So something like that. Threat is just the opposite of that for me as the game master. Threat I use to kind of add to my D20 pool and kind of do stuff that way. So it kind of helps me as the DM to kind of have threat in order to do stuff. In fact, if you guys are out of momentum, you can buy d20s by giving me threat. So we'll go more into that when we get into the general rules and everything.
I saw
But
that.
yeah.
I'll say this before we start like actually even playing.
Yeah.
A lot of like in like D&D, if the DM just like throws an ultra powerful thing at you, you might be like, "Wow, this DM's a dick." Threat kind of to me feels like it gives the ability to the DM to do that without necessarily like he wants to give you a challenge.
Yeah.
But because of the mistakes or risks you've taken, I'm putting those things in quotes just because, like, maybe there's not necessarily a mistake.
I think
Yeah.
risk is
whatever.
a much better word
Risk,
for it.
yeah.
I think risk is a much better word for it.
But because of the actions that the party has taken,
Mhm.
there are repercussions, and the DM now has a mechanic to like account for that.
Yeah.
And it's not
Mhm.
like, oh, you fucked up your stealth check, so now I'm just gonna throw a boss at you. It's like the GM's like, no, you fucked up 8 stealth checks. I have the die to prove it.
Here they are.
I'm gonna use them.
Yeah.
In that regard, though, it also, and again, we haven't played,
Yes.
makes it feel like D&D is like the DM tells a story,
Referee.
and the players go along. Threat almost makes it sound like it will be like DM versus the players now, rather than the DM like telling a story and whatever happens. It all, and again, we haven't played, so this might change, but it almost makes it sound like the DM is against the players.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I got that impression. Just going over it, it really seems like there's a really kind of delicate balance. I don't think it's necessarily DM versus the players, but the DM is heavily encouraged to create a harsh world, a world where survival is in fact very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, and that the threat, but threat also works the other way. Like that's the other thing with threat. So like that the from what I understood from threat, it's kind of a two-way street. So
Yeah.
it can go either. He can give us bonus, like, you know what I mean, like that can happen too, and he can run out of threat.
Yeah, exactly. Like it threat is generated by players, right? So it's like I'm only gonna have enough threat if you guys feed me threat. I would agree with Nye that it does set up more of an antagonist position for the game master than I would argue other games do. And so maybe for newer DMs and everything, always keep the mindset that you are the storyteller, you are a referee, you are not out against your players. I think that's kind of general GM advice, but it's always good to keep in mind, especially if you are like playing out a game like this and using threat. But then again, I think I agree with Justin more so that it is a two-way street. Threat is only given to the game master if you guys kind of feed them. So
Yeah, and also to that storytelling thing, there is a little bit of a collaborative spirit here. Like a 75-25 kind of, it looked like we wanted to, or 60-30 or whatever, the 70-30. Yeah. But nope, we can die in this. It's probably going to be more easy than we think.
Yeah, I'm so excited to get into that because like there's no HP. It's how skill tests and stuff are solved is very, very interesting. But we'll get into that when we're in attacking everything. But that was a good segue to kind of talk about threat and momentum. Those are kind of shared pools. You guys have momentum, and then the game master has threat that you kind of use to enhance your rolls. So, but going back to the house, the first thing you kind of set up, and I think this is on. Oh, well, I guess the very first thing on the house sheet is actually to come up with a name for your house and your home world, if you want to do that. Tons of different options.
All right. Well, let's pick a name after we create the house. That might be easier.
Absolutely. That's a great idea, Justin. Even though it's first on the name sheet, let's kind of go more into like what your house does and everything. Because the first up, right after that, is something called domains. Domains you can think of is like what your house is most famous for. Whether that's producing a resource, Harkonnens with spice, Atreides with their pundi rice. It's their rice crop. It could be a bunch of different things. since you guys have starting domains for a house minor, you're going to have one primary domain and one secondary domain. So a primary domain is going to be like your main thing that you're known for, and a secondary domain is just something that you also do on the side. It's just not your main contributor to your finances, right? So going on to page 88 through, gosh, all the way through 90, it kind of breaks down more about what the different types of domains you can have. It even talks about areas of expertise. So, like, you can have an artistic domain, an espionage domain, a farming domain, which we talked about before, industrial, canly, which is the next step forward from espionage is assassination. I did not know what that term meant, so that's great.
I was about to say, I'm really glad the following sentence
Explains it immediately. We have military, political, religion, and then science. And it kind of breaks down more of the different things that are there. We did lose Justin's camera. Are you still there, Justin? Oh, there. Yeah. Okay, great. So, and then it kind of breaks it down that each area of expertise is divided into the following sections: machinery, produce, expertise, workers, and understanding. So, yeah. Does any of those kind of strike anybody's interest, or what they would love to create a character behind, like what you would want your house to be?
Spencer, what page is the rule book is this on?
Yes, it's
starts at like 87.
Yeah. So it does give an example under areas of expertise. Like a farming house might take 3 different types of crop produce for their primary and 2 secondary domains. There's nothing wrong with creating new areas of expertise if you want your house to excel if what you want your house to excel at isn't listed. So these are just examples of different things, but it can be a ton of different stuff. So, like we talked about farming, that's kind of both what Atreides and Harkonnen kind of do, because it's like harvesting spice, like harvesting like rice. So, yeah.
Okay, so there's farming, and I'm waiting for my book to open right now.
Yeah.
There's farming, industrial. What else do we have?
A ton.
There's so many.
Yeah.
Artistic.
Yes.
Ooh, well, what kind of house do we want to be? Let's talk about this conceptually before we start going into the nitty gritty of the rules here. That's all of them, right?
Yeah. Artistic, espionage, farming, and then it continues on to canly, military, political, religion, and science.
Oh, we're not all making our own house?
No, it's all the same. So that's one of the things, is that this is a group effort together.
Oh.
Yeah. Were you going ahead?
I already had ideas.
Well, no, share them.
Voted on the house size.
You're over here not participating.
I mean, that could still apply to our own houses.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so the reason why is like you
separate houses.
There's always a discussion about like in any RPG you play, like what brings your characters together. You guys being in the same house is what brings your characters together, right? You guys all serve the same house and what you're working on. And as we're creating characters, one of you might be directly of the bloodline. Some of you guys are maybe servants or doing different, or a sword master or a different like trainer or something like that, which is cool. But Christian, I'd love to hear what kind of house you've already started to make, and maybe Justin and I will think that's good too.
Yeah, give us a starting point.
It's a bunch of edgelords.
Nah, you made
Let's
go!
It.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, edgelords.
You brought it up.
That's the Harkonnens to a T.
Well, kind of. So I don't know. I was working with some things. I was basically made a house of assassins. Where they had basically a master of assassins, and it was basically, I guess you could say, the ruler of the house, or maybe there's somebody above them. But essentially, the lower ranks, at least I wanted to play an assassin personally, but like the lower ranks would so my character would aspire to become the master of assassins, is kind of trained by under their curriculum, basically their knowledge of um, you know espionage and all that. And but the way to overthrow and basically become the master of assassins is that you have to assassinate the master of assassins. So that's kind of like how you get there, but it's obviously a very hard thing to do.
Reminds me a little bit of the rule of two in Star Wars. It's like, Sith always killing their master and stuff like that.
Oh, that's fair. I didn't even think about
See,
that.
and I'm
No,
over
that's
here like,
okay. I think that's awesome.
Yes, standard Assassin's Guild. Nothing unusual.
Nothing.
Pretty standard, actually.
Like the primary thing for my house that I was thinking is that they are very good at producing a poison that is not detectable whatsoever.
Ooh, that's cool.
And deadly combat strikes, so that they coat their blades in the poison.
Yeah.
But that's all. That's as far as I got. And it's a little dark, so I understand if
I like to think that because there's such things as like sword masters and stuff like that. That could be something where you incorporate that into your character, and whatever house you guys kind of make, like you could still come from that assassin type guild, but you're just working for the house, right?
Yeah.
But unless I don't know, Justin, Nye, how do you feel about all of that, or incorporating that into your house?
Yeah, you could have that within the house.
You
Yeah.
can be an assassin.
Yeah.
I feel like how I was gonna go about this. They're pretty cool about a lot of stuff. my character's real cool about quite a bit of things.
Oh.
What is Canley? Oh, that's okay.
That's assassination.
Yep.
Assassination.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. I guess is that the domain name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you feeling
Yeah,
that?
I mean, my original thought was farming, which is basically the same thing as what Christian said.
Yeah, I mean, there's something that you could produce on the planet that ultimately, like some herb or something that's you're used to.
But I mean, I like the idea of just like our main domain or like primary domain. Is that it?
Yeah.
Being like produce a poison, and a secondary could be like assassins that use.
Well, we
said
could
poison.
we could be farmers, and a byproduct of our crop is
Right.
like
That
the
would be
husk of
cool.
what, like we grow corn, space corn, and the husks of the space corn can be boiled down.
Yeah, but if
Yes.
distilled in the right way, it'll kill you.
Yeah. Yeah. The duality of that,
we
like
can make
a
we
producer of
cannot
life.
distill it as much, and it's booze.
Yes.
I'm imagining getting like like an order from a customer. It's like, I'll take 8 boxes of corn and 2 of poison. Please and thank you.
Please and thank you. What's the new husk poison special you got going on?
Yeah.
I love that. The kind of duality of like the giver of life with food, but also the taker away of poison. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, our
Cool.
motto could reflect.
Done. Write it down.
Or like poppies.
Christian, what were you saying about the motto?
No, I was saying that like that's what you mentioned is very close to what like our motto could be, right?
Yeah. Because that's the cool thing on the character sheet is that you not only get to make like a house crest, but you get to make a motto and everything as well, which is really cool. But yeah, it sounds like your primary area of expertise, since you have one primary and one secondary, your primary is farming, because you're farming that kind of like crop, and then Canley, right, is your secondary, because you actually use that poison for killing people.
Oh, we're not spice harvesters?
Well, we
Well,
are
you made a
Harvest.
contract, yes, with the Harkonnens.
maybe it has.
Look,
Maybe
My
we
character has a
lied
little
and our
bit of
crop
a
actually we
spice
don't want the spice. Our crop just does really well growing in the soil of the spice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
we're now
doesn't
outputting.
spice give you like psychedelic shit?
Oh, it gives
Now
you more
now
than
we have
psychedelic
psychedelic
shit.
corn. Now we're gonna sell our corn that's like spice infused.
Or
We
yeah.
have like actual soil. Are we on? We don't have to be on a desert planet, right? We can be on a.
No, that's a great
No.
question, Justin, because the next part is homeworld. Because it actually talks about like what is your homeworld like? Like your house, it's minor, so it probably doesn't control many different worlds, but what is your homeworld like? Like what is the dominant form of weather on the world? Is it hot, a little cold, always rainy? What sort of habitation is there? Is it mainly cities, towns, or isolated farms? And it kind of goes into like what is the crime rate like? What are the content of are the how content are the people? How much of the house's wealth is put into the community? Stuff like that. So
Yeah, can it not be corn though? Can it be
yeah,
like literally anything else?
avocados,
No,
space
that's fine.
avocados.
Oh, actually, you know what? The pits of avocados actually are super poisonous. I mean, just some that, and that's actually true of a lot of stone fruit. Like if you like the peaches have arsenic in them. Peach pits.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean, it could be just like a flower of some sort.
Yeah, can we grow like space peaches?
I mean, I like the space avocado idea.
Okay, space avocado. I like space avocado. That's fine. It's a fruit. There's a pit.
I can have my
that's
space avocado toast in
that
the
is
morning, and
literally
it doesn't bankrupt me.
90% of what I asked for. So
And Christian said a flower as well, so maybe it blooms first and then produces the avocado space avocado fruit.
Oh,
Yeah,
like the petals themselves can be distilled down to make the poison. The petals themselves have a lot of the
Ooh.
poisonous element,
Yeah,
and
that's
then we
why
actually sell and harvest the fruit.
nobody knows where these assassins are from, and everybody thinks we just grow the food.
Peaches. Oh, I spit
But
avocado.
where
Space avocado.
secretly, it's the flower that's actually what carries our house forward. That's what protects us, right?
Yeah.
Because we just go assassinate anybody we need to.
I just like the idea that we're preventing millennials from
with the
buying houses
spasticado- with
because
the
they have to buy
spasticado
their
blossom
avocado
blossom
toast in the
festival.
morning.
We have a state holiday. It is the state. It's the spasticado. Space avocado.
Space avocado.
Spasticado. The Spasticado Bloom Festival. They actually are this because we have. Can we have multiple suns? Does anybody give a shit?
Fuck it.
Yeah,
Sure.
we have
This
multiple
is
suns
whatever you want.
and a different atmosphere. So like one of the lights that gets through pretty readily is our suns have a slight violet tint to them, and a lot of the plants are purple. So the spasticado is a pleasant lilac.
I like it.
How nerdy should I get on the fact that you said they should be violet, slightly violet?
Oh yeah, because that actually would be really common, or that should be really common according to like space
No,
physics.
no,
No?
no, 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 no,
Or is
no.
it super rare?
It's super rare
Okay, cool.
because
Yeah.
so
I like
sorry.
it even more now.
Physics rant.
Please.
Violet light is super high frequency, and as a result, it gets absorbed by a lot of molecules as it comes to the atmosphere. Because like the atmosphere, think of like Earth's atmosphere. The reason we don't get like ultraviolet radiation, the key part being it's like higher energy, is our atmosphere captures a lot of that high energy light, which is why a lot of things aren't violet in nature, because there's not a lot of reason to absorb violet light because none of it gets to the surface.
We have a slightly thinner atmosphere.
Well, that could be bad for humans because of ultraviolet radiation giving you cancer and killing you.
So maybe most people live inside like shielded buildings and such, but grow the crop
That's
out
fine.
there.
I'm just saying the science of having a violet sun. Sounds
fair.
cool. kind of dangerous.
Welcome to
They could
ABC's
be a pretty-
RPGs.
They
where
could
we...
be. They could also be. They could also be a pretty red color, which would make just a lot of sense with normal shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like
Yeah,
the same
red's
color
really
as
good.
poppies.
Red's
Yeah.
really good to penetrate through the atmosphere.
Science
All right,
fact.
cool. They're. I don't know. Does anybody? They're scarlet. Everybody like that, and just a nice.
Thanks for coming to
red.
Tabletop RPGs, where you learn about the effect
bit
of
about
the
it.
atmosphere on filtering light from the sun. You're
Unfil-
welcome.
Physics, botany. It's like a science lesson and an entertainment thing. It's like dinner theater, really,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like pleasant.
Yeah. Welcome. glad I'm glad we could teach you guys something new today. Oh. So yeah, so I mean that's the cool thing is that like after you guys picked your like domains, yeah, you roll right into making this homeworld and everything, which sounds like. So are we leaning into the ultraviolet then? Is that what we're doing?
No.
No,
It has a nice like stable atmosphere.
Stable atmosphere.
Yeah, our the flowers of the Spassacato plant are a like a poppy color, kind of scarlety vermilion.
Well, okay. If you want you want your violet sun, right? What you could do is the rate.
I'm not really married to purple.
the rate of the orbit. You primarily have the main star, which gives you like the normal white light that we get from the sun, but you could have it such that like for 2 hours of the day or something, the violet star is closer, so more of that light comes through, and you'd have to like be indoors for those 2 hours. But then like the other, assuming a 24-hour day, the rest of the time like it's behind the other star or something, and you're good.
Beautiful.
Okay, so like around noon.
Sure. Yeah, around noon you have to go inside or wear a radiation suit.
So is the flower and or the spatacado, is that incorporated into your house crest? Is that going to be like a part of the house crest?
Spassacato?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've done a lot of creation here, and I don't want to hog the.
I would
mic.
say the spassacato should be. I don't know if the flower should be, because if that's where the poison comes from. I
Could
don't
be.
know if we want to.
Oh, so it's like a
Could-
misdirect.
Well, it could be a
like it.
secret threat.
Yeah, because like Christian said, we make spassacatos. Look, we're farmers. We don't hurt anyone, as we like secretly produce this poison that kills people. So I don't want to put like that flower on our crest of like showing it off, because we're spassacato farmers.
I love that you guys are just so on board with the Spassacato. It's so natural.
It's so natural. It grows out of the ground.
Yeah, it comes off the ground. Spassacatos. They're great. You put them on everything.
Yeah. But yeah.
Can they grow? Can they grow in bushes?
I guess. I mean, avocado trees are. I mean, avocados grow on trees.
Yeah, but I want it to be a bush.
Okay.
I mean, it's
Is it a tall bush?
It's just like it's like a strawberry bush,
Okay.
but with spassacatos.
Okay.
it's different.
How big are spassacatos? Actually, yeah, we should talk about this. Are they like little hand? Are they like the size of peaches? Are they the size of like maybe cherries?
Mandarin oranges.
I imagine if they're like growing on a bush, I'm imagining like a strawberry bush, but it's like an avocado. So it's like this mini avocado. It's like this big, like a strawberry.
Okay. They're little. They got. Yeah.
For all our viewers, we'll eventually play the game, but this is very important.
No, this is important. Like this is part of it.
world
This is part of the Dune fantasy. You guys are making your own house right now. Like yeah, like after Homeworld, you create your Bandit in Arms, which is what we were already kind of discussing and everything, and then we go into house traits. So this is all part of the core discussion of how you guys are influenced, and that's why I think this is really cool. Christian, how are you feeling about the spatacado and everything, and the banner and yeah?
Wait, first of all, it's spassacato, like space, but spas.
As in like avocado.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah,
spassacato.
spassacato.
Okay. This is
Spassacato.
making sure. Yeah, I mean, that works for me. Grows on bushes. We just got a bunch of spassacato bushes, and you could eat it like 1 or 2 bites. Sounds like so more like a strawberry.
Yep.
But yeah, it goes
Yeah.
on many things. It's very flexible.
Yeah,
And
it's
they
got
grow
like a
well.
little kind of like a almond sized pit.
And they grow well specifically on our planet because of our weird binary system that has a violet star.
Yep.
Yes, I like it. Um,
So
yeah, I
next,
was thinking like a motto
They
like
go really well on beef patty sandwiches if you can get beef on your world.
so I feel like we'd wear that kind of house crust proudly. Like
Oh yeah,
we
we love our
really want to make
Spassacato.
a
There's the
sickle.
Spassacato Festival, the Spassacato Blossom Festival. There's the clothing that we make out of the coverings of the Spassacato fruits. We like boil that down. We turn it into leather.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you could get a dye from it, right? Too.
Yeah, yeah. You
For
can get
textiles.
or you could get sure. Why not? Instead of leather thing, we get dyes from the skins of the fruit.
All kinds of. I mean, all the
Yeah.
above.
We're like the Native Americans. We're very versatile. We use the whole Spassacato.
Use the whole Spassacato. It's important.
Nothing goes to
Yeah.
waste.
Nothing goes to waste.
so the last thing, of course, is talking about your house traits, which traits can be used as if they are traits of their own or by any player character because you are part of this house. If you spend 1 momentum, you can apply one of the house traits to your character for the remainder of the scene. And you can do it as often as you wish to spend momentum for as many of the house traits you guys like. So each house begins with a trait for any primary domains it has. This trait is the same as the area of expertise for that domain. And then, let's see here. Each house also begins with a descriptive trait for its reputation. This might be honorable, like Atreides, or brutal, like the Harkonnens. This trait details the way the rest of the Imperium sees your house and expects your agents to behave. Other traits may be gained or lost by a house during play, usually after an important event changes their reputation in the Imperium. So first off, you get a trait for your primary domain, which is the farming of these Spasicados. And then you also get the descriptive trait.
Maybe resourceful could be a good one.
So they're like a list of traits somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's-
yes.
they're original.
Starting
What
on
is
page,
that on, Spencer?
let's see here. 102 has some. Let's see here. And then let's see.
Like 142-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just looked and I was super confused.
It's really just any descriptor.
Yeah,
Almost.
if you think about it, a trait, it can come into relevance within a scene in the sense that, like, think of it as access to be able to do something. Like, if you're a rogue in D&D 5e, you would have a proficiency in, like, lockpicking and stuff like that, right? In Dune, the RPG, in order for you to, like, get a door open or break into somewhere, maybe you have the trait of criminal, right? And because you're a criminal, like, you could say, like, oh, because I'm a criminal, I know how I can hack this door. Or because I'm a criminal, I know who to talk to like, get information about stuff, right? So this house trait is something that you can apply to your character using momentum in order for you to do stuff that, because you're a part of the house, you get to use that as kind of like a trait to do stuff. So I would imagine that, like, the primary trait for your domain is, like, because you guys are a farming house, first and foremost, I would say we could probably just list farming in general. All of your characters, if they wanted to use that during the scene, for the scene, you just spend a momentum, and you're like, yeah, my character would be able to talk to this random farmer out in the middle of nowhere because we're a farming house. We know how to communicate with these guys. Like, that would be how that works. Yeah.
Industrious, hardworking, or that's the same thing. Yeah, like modest, relatively Spartan. because of the,
Yeah.
uh, simple farming folk.
Another example is, in practice, this is easy to apply. Each trait can be placed into a simple statement such as one of these below. So, because I am personal trait, this activity is like so and so forth. Because of situation or locational trait, this activity is blank. Because I have equipment trait, this activity is so on and so forth. So those kind of statements, like I was
so we'd
saying.
be like, oh, I could probably fly this large vessel or drive this large piece of machinery because, of course, we're used to shipping vessels and farming equipment.
Yeah.
We all probably can use rifles and have relatively decent survival skills.
Yeah. Exactly. So it sounds like for the primary domain, go ahead and write down that it's probably just farming is that main trait, since it's the same as the area of expertise. But the main thing I think that you guys would have to come up with is the descriptive trait for your reputation of how the Imperium sees you. Which it sounds like, even though you guys are creating these secret assassins, sounds like you're mostly...
I have a thought on that.
Yes.
Dependable.
I was thinking hipster.
Oh, hipster works. We should do hipster.
In that, because they're avocado, there's spasicados. So
no. But this is like avocado farming in like 1950s California. This is not like.
Oh, see, I'm thinking like today avocado. We have spasicado toast in the morning for breakfast every morning.
Yeah.
Like you said, depriving.
I mean, we might too, but we don't make a big deal about it.
Okay.
We're not that kind of house.
Resourceful.
You were gonna say resourceful, Christian?
Yes.
I like that.
I think it makes.
I mean, we did talk about the fact we use every part of the spasicado.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm cool with that.
I don't know.
I like it.
That's great.
Resourceful.
So then your primary trait would be farming, and your descriptive trait would be resourceful. Those are perfect. That's how the Imperium views your house minor within the Imperium, which is great. The next one we don't have to spend a whole lot of time in, but basically the next one talks about roles. So every house has different types of roles, and you can see this on the character sheet. There is a ton of different house roles on there. It's like ruler, consort, heir, advisor, chief physician, counselor, envoy, marshal, scholar, spymaster, swordmaster, treasurer, and warmaster. Ton of roles, especially for your house. Those are kind of I would imagine if you're playing like a longer campaign and resource, that's going to be something you would use pretty often to kind of help guide the campaign that you're doing. Like at any point, you as players could be like, oh, let's turn to this role within our house and such like that. Mm-hmm. So that'd be something that you guys could kind of make up. But also, if we start making our characters and one of you guys are the heir, then you would just write down your character's name in that position, right? So.
And what pages are these roles on again?
Yeah. So it starts on 92. And there's a ton of different ones. We don't have to necessarily name each and every one of you, because also like Swordmaster is one of them. So if you guys kind of choose like a Swordmaster role when you're making your character, you can just kind of put your name down there too, which is pretty easy to do. So if you guys want to talk about that a little bit, you can. Other than that, we can actually move on to enemies and kind of talk about your house enemy and like who your rival is and everything. So.
Have you guys thought about? We can talk about it later if you want a little bit more time on roles.
The only thing I was thinking for an enemy, and this is more of a meme enemy. There's another house that knows that we make the poison. And they try to like politically be like, guys, look, they make this fucking poison. I was like, no, they're Spasicato farmers. Like if you're gonna make a lie, make it believable.
So
Yeah,
they're
I mean, active assassination campaigns against them.
Yeah, because the actual the method to turn the flowers into the poison is actually kind of an arduous and complicated. Like you can't inherently there's no poison in the thing. It has to be like we have to
Produced.
bury it with a bunch of other we have to bury it with a bunch of other stuff and let it sit and ferment for a little while, and then we have to pull it out and then distill it down, and then we have to refine it further.
it's not easy growing Spasicatos
We're
or making the
circle.
poison.
Yeah, but that was my idea of an enemy. They know the truth, and we're like, no, it's just a fruit. Look, it's just a fruit.
And out of all the things, there is dice rolls we can make for this too. Because you have a number of enemies, so as a house miner, you get one miner house. And there's hatred and reason that you guys could roll a d20 for. And kind of, if you didn't already have an idea of what you wanted your enemy house to do, you could roll that and kind of see what there is. Because, for example, the hatred, if you roll 1d20, they could dislike you, they could be just a rival, they could be loathing, or they could be kindly towards you. So, as well as the reason, you could roll a d20 and kind of have it's cause a competition, or there's a debt, there's an ancient feud. But the last one could be just there's no reason. You guys are just angry at each other. So, tons of different stuff.
Ooh.
But Nye, I think that's an excellent idea of one house found out, right?
Yeah, they started getting ideas.
I would say it's like a loathing kind of thing.
Yeah, because if they're Canley, then that would
Or
be...
it's morality. They know that we're just a bunch of assassins hiding in plain sight, and they think that we're evil, and everybody's like, you guys need to calm down about these farmers. Or it could be an ancient feud. That's why, our ancestor slew their ancestor with the poisoned blade.
And that's how they found out.
That's how they found out, but it's so long ago, nobody can really prove anything, and it's credited as a rumor.
It's fair.
Yeah,
don't know.
I like that. I like that their ancient lore, their house's ancient lore, is that the first whatever was assassinated via this poison. We're like, no, it wasn't. Even if it was, it's not our fault. We don't make it.
This mural was made, but it...
Oh, man. Oh, no.
somewhat-
It could actually be because there was a contention as to who was the heir. It was between twins.
Christian, what were you saying about a mural?
Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say that all they have to go back on is for evidence is the stories in this ancient mural that somewhat depicts what we could look like, or what we do, the house looks like, whether it's the house crest or whatever, or an actual assassin of ours.
I'm imagining an Egyptian hieroglyph type thing, and and it depicts the murder we're talking about, and one of the things in it is it happens to kind of slightly look like a Spasicato.
Oh, yeah, one of the characters is holding a blob, and they're like, it's obviously a Spasicato.
Yeah, but that's the whole reason. You're like, you killed fucking King whatever. Here's our proof, and it's just this ancient mural, and there's kind of a thing that maybe looks like a Spasicato. You're the only one that makes them. It had to be you.
Yeah,
it looks like they are force feeding the person while they forcing a dagger in the back of that person.
Oh,
yes.
I like that. Yes, they're feeding. It looks like they're feeding them something and stabbing them in the back.
That's perfect.
And it was two twins who were vying for the and they say that we're traitors, and we say that they're just crazy people.
So that's perfect.
Our peoples look very similar
If you
for
guys
no reason. It's coincidence. Same planet, probably pretty normal.
if you guys look at your house record sheet at the very bottom, under house roles, there are 4 slots for different enemies. Like we were saying before, you guys are a minor house, so you're only going to have a minor house enemy. So that's where you'd put down their name, the type, which is that they're a minor house, the hatred, and reason, which we were just discussing, right? It was the ancient feud, and for the reason, and their hatred is loathing because, you know, a while ago there was an assassination that nobody can prove, but a hieroglyph points to you guys, and there's a little notes section, so you can kind of write that in if you want to. But I mean, with that, we have.
It is, yes, they are the Tosswits. And that's a little inside joke between our group. And we are the Abkribjis.
Well, we didn't run that by Christian yet. Christian, I dropped in the Discord chat a proposed name. Justin modified it.
What is the name?
The
The Abkribjis.
Oh my god.
ABC of RPG. The Abkribjis.
Abkribjis.
It's perfect.
How do you spell that?
Look in the chat.
AB apostrophe.
I can't look at the chat. I'm showing the screens.
It's capital AB apostrophe capital CRIPGE.
Oh, perfect. I love that.
I'm dropping it in the.
we
What?
could
I gotta
do
log in on
Abkribja.
Twitch. I was gonna put it in the Twitch chat, but I gotta log in. I don't feel like doing that.
That's okay. We'll post it, I'm sure. So, yeah. I mean, that's basically everything. You have your house name. You have your home world. We didn't come up with a name, but that's okay for the home world. We kind of know what it's like. We have the house type, which is a minor house. We have some traits for you guys that you can pull upon into scenes if you need to. We have a basics for a house crest. We kind of came up with a motto. It's okay. We don't have to come up with everything right away. We discussed our domains, house roles. We might go more into that as we kind of create our characters. And we have the enemy of your house. So.
Losers.
What's their name again?
The Taswits. Or Tosswits.
Toss it.
Tosswits.
Well, after that, we're going to roll into creating your character. Before we do that, I think this is a great time to take a small break before we come back and make our characters, if that sounds good with everybody else.
Yeah.
What if I
Yeah.
say no? What happens?
Well, just keep going,
Well-
I guess.
We do it anyway.
We do. Just ignore. It's not a democracy. It's decided. So
You get a vote. You just outvoted.
You're just... So we're gonna take our quick break.
Oh, did we decide if
Oh.
this was loathing or rival or what? Loathing.
I said
right?
loathing because I feel
think
like
loathing is based on the
Canley
description we laid out. Yeah, it would
feels
either
big.
be Canley or loathing.
Yeah.
but Canley feels kind of big. So I feel like loathing is a good halfway.
Yeah. All right.
Huh.
With that, we'll come right back after we take our quick break, and I'll make our characters. Kind of get into the nitty gritty of who we're making as characters and what we'll be able to do. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey everybody! Welcome back to the ABCs of RPGs, where we teach you the basics of tabletop role-playing games. My name is Spencer. I'm the Game Master. We are going to be playing Dune, the RPG. Adventures in the Imperium. We are currently in the middle of our session 0. We have just created our house. And before I go into any more detail, let me go ahead and make sure our players are introduced. Christian.
Hello. My name is Christian. I'm messing around.
He is a man of words, people.
I am a man of few words.
Yep.
And I think that is more powerful than if I was a man of many words.
That's perfect.
This is
No,
Using a
super
lot of words
encouraging.
to
It's a
explain
tabletop
this.
RPG game.
now I'm explaining myself, and it's just all crumbled.
Beautiful.
No, I'm excited to play Dune. I think this has been super fun so far,
Yeah.
getting into the world building. So, yeah, I'll pass it over to you, Nye.
Hey, I'm Mike, aka Nye. Yeah, I'm enjoying growing our Spasicato farming house. It's been a fun hour or whatever we've been playing so far of not actually playing, just building lore of our Spasicatos.
This is a part of playing. This is a part of it. Like even in the break, we were just having a heated discussion about the motto. So
But before we get into the motto, I'll pass it up to Justin.
Hey everybody, I'm Justin Brotown, he, him. Yeah, but on that note, yes, I'm excited for the Spice Melange, and knife fights with in bikinis.
in bikini.
Yeah, I'm gonna get down to my bikini briefs and knife fight somebody. It's gonna happen. Even if it has to happen out of nowhere.
It's one way or another.
You start stripping in the desert. Fight me.
Yeah.
What? Fight me here
Fight me.
now.
May your blade be chipped.
Oh, may your blade chip and shatter.
Yeah. So I do actually think that this is pretty good because when you're talking about role playing, and I had a great experience one time with a game, and I thought that this was a super fun world building tool where we had to create kind of this somewhat fleshed out world, and our GM sat us down and they were like, okay, you're gonna role play creating this world. So we came up with these gods that created the world, which was cool. And this is kind of similar to that. I think it's also good for players to see, for anybody following along. Let your players know that this might just be like, you can kind of combine this with session 0 kind of thing, talk about expectations when you first start out.
Yeah.
And then, you can kind of also touch on some of the rules in case, whatever. But yeah, it's good for players, people watching, to see that this is creating your house is not necessarily a quick task, especially if you have fun with it, because that's crack open a bottle of wine in session 0 and figure out your house.
Yeah. What were you saying, Di?
I said, I'm having fun building a house.
Yeah.
Even whether you classify this as quote unquote playing the game,
It is.
I have been enjoying the entire time we've been on stream doing this.
Perfect. And that's what I think is really cool, because like this is very just much of like whatever you guys want to create. But this next part, when we get into characters, it's more so like traits and stuff. But it's kind of nice because it says, hey, start with the house and then build your character, so your character knows what kind of house you're serving, which is really cool. Before we get into our characters, though, I think in between the break, we did come up with a motto for the house.
We had to reconsider the motto.
Oh,
we came up with a couple mottos.
Okay.
So the first motto was, what was it? It was like unto life becomes death.
Yeah, let me show that one real quick, because that was what Christian made. So it's this little paraleaf here with the unto life becomes death, but we did change that.
Well, we had that. We also had we first came up with we thought it would just kind of be funny, memey, whatever to do Soma Sakari, which is we're assassins, and then
in ancient Latin,
Somas not Sakari non Somas, or whatever the yes, Sakari non Somos. Which is we are not assassins. But it turns out that this is maybe a mistranslation on the part of Google, where it might not be the right word for assassin, because there are we need to make inclusive decisions about having this, and there's a little bit of history to that, to the term Sakari, that is on the fence. And you know what, if if I'm on the fence about it, I'm not going to do
Yeah,
it.
it's not
Yeah.
worth. It's not worth rubbing somebody the wrong way.
Yep.
Mhm.
And we could always finish out the model later, but we definitely have a good start. So
But no, for those that weren't here the first half, the story behind the "We are assassins and we are not assassins" is we have a rival house. Well, so we make poison, and there's a rival house that knows this, and they try to out us. And the joke is that, well, it's our ancient motto. It's ancient Latin. Nobody knows what it really means. Like, this is thousands of years old. Who's the translation has been lost to time. You can't prove anything. Clearly, even if it is what it means, it's like that's thousands of years ago. We're not assassins. That's ridiculous.
the Tacit House, though, your enemy house, still holds on to this ancient feud, trying to find ways to prove that the House Abkrigi is, in fact, the ones who slew their ancient heir.
Okay.
Okay.
But perfect, yeah.
I like that was good job.
Oh, thank
That
you.
was, quite the summary.
I wasn't sure if that was too dramatic.
No, not at all.
Perfect.
Perfect amount of dramatic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right, and with
Perfect
that,
drama.
House Abkrigi, we are moving into making your guys' characters. So let's go ahead. This starts it's chapter 4, page 99. It's right after the house, making your house and stuff like that. So it kind of starts off, it talks about the differences between player characters and non-player characters, which is just general stuff. We who have been playing RPGs or video games in general kind of know a lot about what these kind of means, like main characters, supporting characters, notable and minor, stuff like that. That just kind of breaks that down for you. But then it talks about, like, who are you? And it gives some sample character concepts. Some things that we'll kind of get into. It does later on, but it goes into kind of character archetypes later on. Let's see here. Okay, that's not till page 113, but when we get into, like, the different types of characters and everything, what you guys do, I'm going to flip to the character sheet for a second, because before we start getting into, like, what kind of character and, like, concept and stuff you are, it might be good to kind of know how these different things kind of interact with each other. So on the character sheet, of course, at the top there, you have your name, your house. It goes into your role and all of that fun stuff. The biggest thing, though, is you're going to see there your drive and then your skill. And these are kind of the main things you're going to be using when you interact with the world. Think of drives as what's your motivation for carrying out a task, and your skills are what the type of tasks are. So, in that sense, when you're filling out your character and you're making this stuff, kind of keep this in mind. All of you could have very similar drives, but I would encourage every one of you to have different skills that you kind of focus in on. And what I mean by that is truth, for example. If truth is your driving factor, you can use truth to do a lot of different things. You can have truth to kind of empower your battle skills. Maybe you're fighting to find out the truth behind an assassination or something like that. Maybe truth is how you're communicating because you just want to get to the bottom of somebody who's lying to you. Drives are going to be what you kind of do. When we kind of go through and look at the numbers, you're always going to be adding a drive to a skill and making that kind of like, that's the target number you're trying to roll under when you're making these skills checks. So all of you can make whatever drive you want the most, because for the most part, you're just going to be picking a drive and using that as much as you can throughout the session. But your skills, I encourage you to have different skills because that's where the different archetypes kind of come in. One of you might be the best skilled in battle, whereas one of you might be best skilled in communicating. Another person might be the best skilled in understanding. because maybe you need to kind of like, understand like how different things work. So those are kind of the basics of things before we kind of get into our characters' concepts. And I just kind of wanted to explain that real quick before we started making our characters. And we'll kind of go into more details of this character sheet as we kind of push forward. But any questions on that so far before we start going to character concepts and such? Okay, great. So, next up, so it gives an example of who are you. Christian, I think you already have kind of a concept for your character already. It gives examples such as like a scion of a house. I mentioned that being like you being an heir to like your own house, especially you guys having being in a minor house. It's not very big, so all the more likely that one of you is the heir to the house, right? There's a mentat advisor, which we talked about. There's no thinking machines. Mentats are basically human computers. They are very smart individuals who have an array of knowledge that they can just recall and calculate, much like a computer. Bene Gesserit agents. Bene Gesserit are kind of like these, like, kind of magical space witches. Oh, I don't know if that's offensive to say that they're space witches. But they are like a diplomat, a spy, and they have kind of like unique powers granted to them. Then there's a sword master, which is like a warrior. Like if you're a sword master, you are like sufficiently trained in combat, and you are probably teaching or educating the house on battle. And then there's physician, right? Like there's like souk doctors, which are like trained in the medical profession. So tons of different kind of character concepts that you guys can kind of have in your mind as we're kind of filling this stuff out. Oh, there's even more. Sorry. There's smugglers, Fremen warriors, house officers, basically anything you can kind of think of within the context of this adventure, you can kind of make. I probably would discourage making a Fremen warrior just because your house is unfamiliar with the Fremen as you start this adventure. But maybe that's if somebody wanted to join in the future, they could come in as a Fremen warrior, kind of like joining your house for one reason or another. So, yeah. It does talk about the concepts of plan creation and creation and play. Basically talking about how, like, hey, we're gonna assign like an archetype, points to your skills, focuses, talents, and drives and stuff like that. But if you don't know exactly how this kind of comes together as a concept, that's okay. You can kind of make that up as you're playing and how you want your character to interact with the world. So that's how it kind of works in play. It does disencourage creation and play if you've never played the game before. It does recommend starting out with kind of like making sure you know what kind of character you're playing going in, or even using pre-made characters. I think that, excuse me, everybody here is well-versed enough in RPGs that we can create our own characters and kind of do this adventure starting off. But if you guys are starting out for the first time or just picking up for a real quick, like, let's play right now, using pre-made characters is really great for that. The quick start has that. So that's what's really nice with that. Yeah. Once again, it goes over the basic rules right here. Next up, we're doing personal traits and skills. So yeah. Let's see here. A character's first trait is normally their title, status, or role in society. Examples include Duke of House Atreides, Master of Assassins, Consort to Duke Leto Atreides, so on and so forth. So when we were talking about like the concepts and such like that we had before, Sign of the House, Mentat Advisor, Bene Gesserit Agent, those are the types of like your first character trait, which is like what your character's title would be. What is their status? What is their role in society? Then you have a second character trait, which is your reputation, just and wise, or callous and ruthless, and how the character is perceived by others. So, I'm going to go ahead and pull up some of the example character sheets from the pre-made characters, from all the pre-made character stuff. But if you guys already have some ideas of what you think your character would be, feel free to discuss and talk about that now. Like the first pre-made character in the Dune Quick Start is Shara Fell, who's a Mentat, and her traits are Mentat conditioning and direct and clinical. That would be like her kind of like her focus. Whereas the second pre-made character, Talia Carell, she is a criminal. That's like her main trait. She is a criminal. And her other trait is dangerous scum. So we talked about traits before. They are things that help you interact with the world and how you would kind of like normally approach the world, right? Like being a criminal, like I was discussing before, might grant you abilities to kind of allow to interact with criminals on the world, but it could be negative. Like, you know, a noble house might look down upon a criminal, but might welcome a mentat for if they need some knowledge or calculation to be done. Meanwhile, a mentat probably won't be welcome within a criminal society, right? So that's kind of like what these personal traits kind of do. And I believe they're pretty open-ended in the sense of like what you can kind of choose or what you want to be. So, Christian, were you making an assassin type character?
Oh yeah.
So I would imagine your first trait would definitely be assassin.
Yeah, so based on the book, or you know, kind of what the rules was explaining, there can be like, you know, obviously the main character, like player character, and then like a supporting kind of player character as well.
Yeah.
And they talked about in creating the character as like, you know, you might not start off as like a master of assassins or the ruler or the duke or whatever, and that may be something that you aim towards and a goal of yours as a character, which would be more relevant in a longer campaign. But I like that idea, so I don't think, you know, I'm not going to be like the master of assassins for the house. I don't think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be an assassin that looks to kind of replace them. And the kind of awful way that occurs.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't list any like specific traits that you could play as, but if you want to see like the specific scenes and traits rules, that's on page 142 that you can kind of look at and kind of see.
Cool.
Yeah. It also does discuss a third trait. We talked about the first trait being like a status or like a title, and the second trait being like a personal, how your kind of attitude or reputation is, your personal reputation. But your third trait might be like a secondary affiliation or loyalty. So the ones they give an example is like soup doctor, mentat conditioning, or Bene Gesserit sister. So that's kind of like those secondary traits. So if I go to the Bene Gesserit novice character that is pre-made, it says Bene Gesserit novice, and her traits are quiet and watchful and Bene Gesserit. So that's kind of like her character as well. And if you guys, yeah, if you guys want to take some time to kind of like think about traits and everything, go ahead and take time. That's just something to kind of like keep in mind as we're gonna go through this, okay?
Although it might be quicker for right now. Maybe we can work on other characters, but for right now,
yeah,
we can, you know, as we're using for like examples and stuff like that, we can just pick a pre-made character and then move on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll just go ahead and pick Sharafel.
Sure. All right.
Where are these pre-made characters?
They're
in the Dune Quick Start.
Quick Start. Okay.
Yeah. Well, next up, I'll go ahead. It goes into skills. So if you remember on that character sheet, there's those drives and then skills. And skills are going to be super important for, like I was saying, having your character kind of archetype and kind of doing different stuff. So skills are going to be battle, communicate, discipline, move, and understand. And so battle is your character's skill at arms, their awareness of danger, or their understanding of tactics and strategy, and their knowledge of tools, techniques, and history of combat. So a good thing to think of is that when it says battle, it doesn't just mean how well you can punch somebody. It's how well you are at strategizing and doing stuff within combat and knowledge around combat. So that's especially because there's only these like 5 core skills. It's all encompassing within these kind of categories. Communicate describes a character's ability to skillfully engage in conversations, discussions, and debates. Discipline describes the character's ability to influence and control their own mind and body, as well as their ability to exert direct overt influence over others through presence, force of will, and the power of authority. Move is just your character's mobility, their ability to maneuver around an environment quickly and carefully, and their ability to overcome physical objects or obstacles. And then understand describes the character's ability to take in and process information and to recall and apply that knowledge effectively at a later point. So those are the kinds of the difference of the skills we were describing before. You'll also be able to pick like a focus. Basically, well, I guess I should talk about. So a skill rating, you're going to be able to rate skills from 4 to 8. And 4 is basically just your lack of training or knowledge in the field, or you lack training or knowledge in the field. And 8 is going to be like you're a master of that. Focuses, we'll kind of get more into that as we're kind of picking stuff, but that just is like provides you're exceptionally good at that kind of thing. So when we were describing Ashley's character in Lancer, right? She wanted to be especially good at climbing, right? So if she was like putting all of her points into move, she would also use she would right next to it climb as kind of like her main focus. So that means whenever she rolls, she rolls under her like whatever she was rolling for when she adds her drive and her focus together, she gets 2 successes instead. That's kind of like what focuses do. It scores critical successes on whenever you roll under that when you do that thing, which is great. So focuses are pretty cool in that sense. Next up, we have drive, which is duty, faith, justice. Let me roll down. Duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. They all, I feel like, are kind of self-explanatory, but duty is like the pressure upon a character to find their place in society and fulfill their allotted role. Faith is the moral expectation of religion and character's spiritual needs. Justice is a drive towards balance and fairness, but also the will to redress injustices. Power is the pursuit of greater influence, authority, or control over the universe around them. And truth is the desire for knowledge and the need to uncover or define which is true. And once again, there's a 4 to 8 rating because you're going to be adding your drives and your and your skills together. So like a 4 drive rating is you care very little about that thing, or 8 is this is the single most important thing for you. From there's things called ambitions, which is very similar, if I understand, very similar to your focuses in the sense of like when you're doing stuff for your drives, if that makes sense. I'm hopping around here a lot. I'm kind of going over everything because that's how they're kind of explaining it here. Do you guys have any questions about that so far?
This is just like an info dump.
Yes, it is. Sorry.
It's not your fault. It's just like I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
Spencer, to recap, since
Yes.
it was kind of an info dump.
Yes.
Give us some bullet points real quick.
Okay. On page 109, we have a character creation summary. Well, I guess that's going more into character creation. So, let's go to the character sheet. So, you have skills, which are kind of like the main ways you kind of interact with the world. Battle, communicate, discipline, move, understand. And you have drives, which are duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. And drives are kind of like your motivation for skills in battle. Whenever you do a roll, when I call upon you to do a 2d20 roll, you're always going to add one of your drives together with one of your skills. Many of you might have the same drive, but most of you should have a different skill that you kind of focus in on, that you're especially good at. So, yeah, you always add those two together, and then you're trying to roll to hit under that number. So if we go to Hassan Diego, the servant pre-made character, he has a truth of 4 and a understand of 6. So if he was trying to discover the truth of something, and maybe he tried to communicate the truth to somebody, he would add his 7 communicate together to the 4 truth, making that a 11. And what he's trying to do is, in that roll, try to get a number of successes, or try to roll under that 11 and try to get successes that way. So that's kind of like the basics of drives and skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, drives are skills. What like doing a thing. They're broken down, doing things into 5 categories.
Yeah.
And why you do those things have likewise been broken down into 5 categories.
Yeah, exactly.
What and the why.
So let's go back to after.
And in the house, you roll the 2d20s or whatever.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. So
the who is obviously you.
Yeah.
I'm having fun here. Take your work.
So the beginning of chapter 4 of creating your character, it kind of just info dumps and explains all those things to you. From there, starting on page 109, is the character creation summary in step 1. There are 8 steps to making a character. So step 1 is that concept that we talked about at the beginning, right? Where you have your character idea, and it looks like there is a faction template, if applicable, and record its trait if you do. So let's go ahead.
Yeah, so there's, following this page,
Yeah.
Spencer, I read ahead a little bit. Following
Perfect.
this page, there's going to be a few kind of like general types that, these like
Bene Gesserit,
space
Fremen,
sorceresses, the space psychics, Fremen warriors, that kind of thing. Christian, I have a feeling you're going to want to pay attention to page 110 in particular, the upper left-hand corner. If you do not opt to play a faction character, which is kind of maybe some of the votes that we're in right now, there are additional rules that apply. These are summarized in a template for each faction option below. The character then selects the archetype as normal. Some may be especially suitable, though. In each template, there's often some suggestions for, some editing, as we can see going forward.
Mm-hmm.
But the players, you're free to choose whatever you want. Each faction template has at least one mandatory talent. Interesting. So there's one thing that we have to pick, or we will have regardless of whatever archetype we pick. But it must be taken by the end of character creation. So you don't have to, we can kind of pick stuff that makes sense as we read further along. That's pretty cool. And it represents official training that you need to be like in your faction.
Okay.
Cool. So something any of these people could do. Any Sukductor, Mentat, or whatever.
Yeah. Or if you wanted to make your own thing, you could. These are kind of like character concepts that are kind of a faction template, as they call it, that you can kind of use to help you pick out traits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be step 1 for your concept. Does everybody have an idea of what kind of concept they're leaning towards?
Yeah, I think so.
I think.
The next, step 2 is called archetype, which is when you're kind of like picking that. We can move on to that if you guys want to kind of take some more time to consider your character concept.
No, I mean, for right now, I might retcon all of this
Yeah,
But I'm just gonna go with the pre-made. I think I'm just gonna go with the pre-made Mentat character right now.
sounds good. So I started to mention archetypes before. Archetype is going to be step 2. So archetypes, basically, they're going to be your primary skill and secondary skill. So essentially, there are an archetype for each of the 5 main skills. There's the battle archetypes, which are war masters. There are the communicate archetypes, which are socialites. There are the discipline archetypes, which are disciples. There are the move archetypes, which are adepts. And there are the understand archetypes, which are the academics. So once again, it's like focusing in on those different types of traits or skills that you can kind of pick. And there are several different things here that kind of help you out. There's going to be each archetype provides a trait, a skill, a focus, and talent. So if you look over archetypes at a glance, you'll not only have a primary skill, but each one will have a secondary skill. So for example, all of the battle archetypes, their primary skill is going to be battle. But each of these different ones that are down here, there's a duelist, tactician, sergeant, warrior, are going to have the secondary skill as one of the other skills that you can pick. So for example, the duelist, his main primary skill is the battle, right? That's what you're going to be choosing as your highest primary trait or primary skill. And the secondary skill is move. So if you want to be very, very good at battle, and then also very good at being able to like overcome obstacles and be quick and everything like that, your secondary skill is what you choose for that. It gives some examples for focuses, talents, drives, and of course a trait. So that kind of helps you out with your traits that you're kind of picking and everything. If we move into maybe a communicate archetype, you have a commander, an envoy, a courtier, and a steward. So, for example, if you are an envoy, your primary skill is going to be communicate, and your secondary skill is going to be move. So, once again, this person wants to be able to move pretty quickly and stuff like that. So, it kind of gives you some example traits, focuses, talents, and drives as well for that. And that would be kind of like step 2 for picking like your archetype. And this is one of those things I definitely recommend. You all could have a similar secondary skill, but I would recommend each of you choosing a different primary skill so that each of you, when we're playing the game, much like in D&D how you choose a different class, that's kind of what these archetypes kind of do. I'd recommend each one of you having a different primary skill, so you kind of do each of you do a primary, like have a different thing that you're primarily good at, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we should really kind of break it out into. I think we as a group,
Mm-hmm.
Christian and Mike, we should take. Somebody should be a battle archetype. Somebody should be a communicate archetype. Somebody should be a discipline archetype, or like a move archetype, whatever. We should try and pick one of the 3 and then use our secondary skills to kind of back up gaps.
Mm-hmm. Because the next step at step 3, once you've kind of decided what your primary and your secondary are, we're going to start listing those we're going to start filling numbers in for each of those as like what's good and what's secondary and stuff. So.
I was probably going to go with the tactician.
Ooh, okay. A tactician.
That's a battle archetype.
With their secondary being understand.
Interesting. Christian, I know you said you wanted to be a assassin kind of character. There's a couple that stand out to me. I don't know if you've looked at them. Yes, no, maybe. Dead air. Hey, so scout,
Yeah.
smuggler, and infiltrator. Um, so scout and smuggler are move archetypes. So it kind of depends what you were thinking on. There is also a discipline archetype called infiltrator. Yeah. So I'm not sure if any of those sound good. Maybe. So infiltrator's second skill is move, and primary skill is discipline.
It does say too, you can choose
Yeah.
or adapt an archetype from the list. So think of these kind of like in D&D 5th edition, they have a small little section that says quick build. So that just kind of points you in the direction of like, hey, choose this background and do this and stuff like that for your class. This is kind of what
Yeah.
it's doing too. It's giving you suggestions for what you can use.
Or Christian, you could look at if you wanted to create an assassin archetype. The criminal for Talia Carell, she even has a knife with a poison reservoir. You might want to start with her as a template and then go from there.
Mm-hmm.
Make
Yeah.
little tweaks. And for right now, just use her as her like placeholder. Likewise, I'm guessing Nye either the servant or the battle master or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could even
Sure.
cross out criminal on her character sheet and write assassin instead.
Yeah. There's also the reformed spice smuggler, so maybe take a look at him too. It kind of depends how you want to play your character. But these are the cool thing is with this quick start is they either give you an immediate character, or they're gonna give you a really great starting point because one of them is a mentat. We have a criminal,
Mm-hmm.
servant, which kind of might be. I think people are not gonna give the servant character enough accolade.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when you hear servant, you're like, why would I be a servant? Yeah.
Yeah, but I bet he's actually super useful, like crazy useful, especially in this game of political intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
And staring at each other quietly, very, very angrily, while looking slightly confused.
He's very good at communicating and he's understanding. So a lot of his stuff involves kind of like just being around stuff and having good etiquette and be able to kind of like tend to people and be in the right place.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a more social-oriented character.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is a feudal society, so there's going to be a pretty heavy class system.
Yeah.
So don't worry about it too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I can keep going through the next steps. I just don't want to make sure.
Yeah, let's just go to the next step. Christian, I don't know. It doesn't sound like you're. It sounds like you're a little torn between your options. Which you're not really.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna need time to go through this.
Okay,
All
no
right,
worries.
perfect.
Take
So
your time.
let's use that like criminal character as a base. So as we
Yeah, if we need
talking
to,
about it, you can follow along and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Spencer, where were we in? Is it skills time now?
It is skills time. So step 1 was concept. So considering your character idea, Christian has his assassin character he's thinking of. Justin, you're still using the criminal as kind of your character.
No, I'm using the mentat.
Mentat, right?
For right now, yeah. I'm just gonna play. As we're talking about stuff, and if you
Yeah.
want to use my character as kind of a primary.
Perfect.
So there's a mentat character and mentats are like human computers. They're smart and all sorts of stuff. They may or not be the one of the physicians because they're walking, medical libraries, something like that. that's what a mentat is when you think of it, because they're not really like, if you're not really familiar with Dune,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh, mentat, is that like psychic powers? Not really. Actually, if you want that, you should play like Sister of the.
Benny Gesserit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's the character, if that's what you really want, that's what you should play.
Yep.
Dear viewer, if you want a magey character, that is the Bene Gesserit sisters.
Yeah.
Ben, how do you say that?
And Nye, I'm not sure if you have a character's concept, but your archetype you're gonna do was the tactician, correct?
Yeah.
Great. And yeah,
I'm just winging this.
That's okay. Yeah, we talked about the archetypes, which kind of has like a lot of these different archetypes are kind of like examples of what you could do, kind of like a quick build. It gives like, hey, here's your primary trait, and here's like a secondary trait you could have, and it gives examples of talents and skills and such. But I think the important thing is that it sounds like all of you are kind of doing a different like main primary like skill. Like, for example, Christian, I'm not sure what you've chosen for yours first yet, but Nye, you've chosen Battle. And Justin, you've chosen the Mentat, which her main skill is, looks like Discipline, which is a 7. So, yeah, which is great. And so next up, yeah, step 3 is skills. So let's go ahead and go down to that. So essentially, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to assign a rating to each skill, and the first one is your primary skill should be rated a 6. So Nye, you're a tactician. You should put 6 as your battle, because
Easy
that's
enough.
easy peasy. And your secondary skill, which I believe was for the tactician, it was understand, wasn't it?
Yep.
So that's going to be rated at 5.
Done.
Cool. And then you get the other 3 skills rated at 4. You do have 5 more points you can distribute among your skills to a maximum of 8. So if you want, you could bring up your battle up 2 of those 5 points to bring that up to an 8. If you want to do that. You basically just have 5 more points to kind of distribute out. So, for example, Justin's character, the Mentat that he's using for the quick start, distribute the points kind of evenly. You have 2 6 skills, communicate and understand, and only 1 at 7. So your character didn't max out communicate to an 8, but kind of distributed kind of like all around, which is pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the pre-generated characters
Are even.
do an 8. Yeah, they sacrifice going to the 8 to having a decent like low skill.
Yeah.
The lowest skill they have is 5.
Yeah.
So they don't have anything they're bad at.
Yeah, no worries. So now that we have kind of skills, focuses is going to be step 4. So you're choosing 4 focuses and assign them to skills. They're listed on page 103, and at least one should be assigned to your primary skill. Your archetype will offer suggestions. You may take it if you wish. So once again, remember how we were like looking at those different things. So let me go up to tactician for Nye. So the focuses are combat awareness and tactics is what they kind of recommend. You're going to choose 4 of them, which are all listed on page 103. So let me go down to 103. Oh, whoops. I passed them. 103. There we are. So if we go all the way back, so you can look at the different types of focuses that you can kind of choose. So looking at Justin's character, Justin, your Mentat has under communicate innuendo, has under discipline command, has under understand 2 different focuses, data analysis and deductive reasoning. So a good thing to know, Nye, if you're looking at all of the focuses listed starting on page 103, there's a ton of example battle focuses. And once again, you can adapt this however you want, but there's a ton of different ones, everything from assassination, atomics, dirty fighting, dueling, all that kind of stuff. And if you remember correctly, remember back, focuses are whenever you're doing something that involves this focus, anytime you roll under whatever your 2 stats are together, it's going to be a critical success. You're going to get 2 successes instead of 1. So Justin's character, if you were doing a communicate roll and you use an innuendo, like you could justify... Oh, hold on. I'm having technical issues. Sorry,
No, but I
everybody
get what
at
you
home.
mean. I'll pick it up for right now. No, it's all right. I got you, Spencer. Yeah, I understand what you mean. So if we, I have innuendo, I would. That's for anybody who's not familiar with what an innuendo is. It's when you allude to something, saying something else. Spencer, just let me know when you're ready to jump back in.
We're good. I fixed it. Sorry,
Okay.
my monitor turned off for a second.
No, it's all good, man. I didn't want any dead air.
No, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so basically, anytime your character was doing communicate, like maybe your character was trying to secretly tell one of the other members, like maybe Nye's tactician, maybe you know that like your rival house to sit was getting a little bit wise about something, but they're in the party room that you're currently in. So you want to let them know, like, hey, they're up to something. We need to investigate them. And you use an innuendo somehow to kind of communicate that. If you made the roll to try to communicate that secretly to him without anybody else finding out, you would get double successes anytime you rolled under that number. Yeah.
Nye would come up and tell me my uncle T is here.
Yeah.
And that would obviously mean there's a tacit agent in the house.
Right. So, yes. So there we go. So that's kind of like how it would kind of work in that. So let me go down to your tactician. So your tactician says focuses would be combat awareness and tactics is what it recommends as kind of the 2 of the 4 focuses you could kind of choose from. So tactics is battle, and I believe the other one is also battle as well. So that's kind of what it recommends. And then whatever you kind of want, you distribute your points however you distributed Nye. So how Justin's pre-made character does it is they only did 1 under their highest stat, but their 2 6 stats, they gave understand 2 different focuses and communicate 1. So having these different focuses kind of like broad and using what they kind of example, just whenever you're doing it within the game kind of helps you do that thing better, if that makes sense. So,
okay.
Before I get too far, Christian, how are you doing? Do you have any questions about everything? I want to make sure that I'm not skipping ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'm amending kind of so my concept, my archetype would technically fall under smuggler for the primary and the secondary skill. However, like that doesn't theming wise obviously fit, and there's some things I want to change there. I don't want to be kind of more rigidly placed into some of the traits and stuff. Or focuses and everything. So I'm amending that, but I am focusing on movement as my primary skill, being agile and stealth, obviously very important, and then battle as my secondary. Just focusing obviously on assassination. So that fits under smuggler technically, but I'm amending that. And more specifically, kind of just going through on page 133 where the other way you can kind of create a character more customized. So yeah.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Well, next up, step 5, after you've chosen focuses. After you've chosen 4 focuses. Oh, sorry, did you say something, Christian?
No, I was just saying yes.
Oh, okay, yes. Yes! Next up, we have talents. So you get to choose 3 talents. So if we're looking at Sarafel, which is Justin's pre-made character that we're kind of using as an example, there are 3 different talents that is already chosen for that character, which is cool under pressure, intense study, and mentat discipline. It does say if you chose a faction characters must pick all mandatory talents, but otherwise have a free choice for any remaining picks. So if we go back to a lot of those factions we were doing before, which are way up here, like for example, the Fremen have mandatory talents of at least one of the following: dedication, driven, master at arms, rapid recovery, resilience, battle, subtle step, and the reason I fight. Whereas a mentat mandatory talents are at least one of the following: calculated prediction, mentat discipline, mind palace, twisted mentat verify, any of which can be taken in place of any other talent choices. So if you chose a faction, like one of those things, you do have to choose some mandatory talents just because within the context of the story, that's what they would have. But a list of talents begins on page 127, and there's a ton here. I kind of think of talents kind of like feats in D&D. There's like a ton of different options you can kind of go through, and we could spend like a ton of time through this, so we don't have to go through all of this. But we can read like just in characters like talents currently, just to kind of like have that as an example. So for example, the first one is cool under pressure. When you attempt a test using the understand skill, before rolling, you may spend a determination point to automatically succeed at the test, but you generate no momentum. The normal conditions for spending determination still apply. So yeah, tons of different talents, tons of different things you can do, and it's all have kind of like different abilities that you kind of get just for being able to do that, right? Let's see here. Trying to think if there's any. Let's see. Some talents, such as bold, have to be connected to a particular skill. This connection is chosen when the talent is picked and can only apply to that skill. However, such a talent may be chosen again and applied to another skill. So a character might have a bold battle and a bold communicate as two of their talent picks, for example. So let's go to the bold skill and kind of see there. So bold skill. When you take calculated risks, you tend to succeed more often than seems reasonable. When you select this talent, choose a single skill, which is what they were just talking about, either like battle, communicate, that kind of thing. When you attempt a test using the chosen skill, you buy additional d20s by generating threat for the game master, you may re-roll a single d20 in that dice pool. So that's the thing where it's like, it's kind of encouraging you. The bold thing is like when you're buying d20s from the game master, you get to re-roll one of them if you didn't like that roll. So tons of different talents, tons of different things to do. That's definitely, you guys can spend time to kind of do that and kind of look through that if you want to do that, because you get to choose 3 of them unless you chose a faction. Justin, you're lucky because you have a pre-made character, so you don't need to choose anything.
I don't have to do any of that.
Yep.
Which, some players may want to do. If you have a table full of people who are like, all right, I'm gonna have enough trouble memorizing the rules.
Yep.
I don't want to bother with character creation.
Yep.
Especially if you're doing kind of these like one-shotty first on, adventures. It can be pretty good.
Yeah.
We need to normalize the pre-made character.
I agree. No, that's the thing is like, because like I would imagine that most of you guys, even as you're kind of making these characters, you might not like know how any of this kind of works yet. And so having a pre-made character, you can kind of just sit down, roll into it, and kind of like after you've played this like quick start adventure using pre-made characters, you're like, oh, okay, now I know what kind of character I want to make. Now I know how these things kind of interact with the game, and I want to do this instead, right? So
yeah, I actually may switch it up and be the commander on page. This pre-made commander character is kind of awesome.
Yeah.
On 125.
Bro, if you do that, I'll be the mentat.
Well, there's no the tactician and the commander work differently.
Yeah, I know. I want to be the mentat.
Oh, you want to be the mentat? Yeah. All right. Cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
commander characters, I like it. Yeah.
We'll go ahead. We only have 3 more steps left. We have 6, 7, and 8. 6 is drive and drive statements. If we're looking at if we're looking at the mentat character, which Nye is now choosing, it's the duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. Now, when you're playing the game, you're mostly always going to choose the same drive, because the same drive can motivate you to do different things. The duty can motivate you to battle differently, or battle as well as communicate, discipline, move, and understand. But, you know, different things might affect your drive in different situations. So it says to go ahead and rank the 5 drives in order of importance, assigning the ratings 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Of course, 8 being the most important. You also have to assign a drive statement to the 3 highest drives, because anything over a 6 and over must have something to do with this. And how you can kind of think of these drive statements is it's more roleplay than anything else. Like, for example, this Mentat character under duty, which is a 6, has I have a duty to the truth. So it still wraps back to truth, which is one of her highest one, which the truth one is, or the truth statement is the truth is always revealed eventually. And then 8, which is justice, her highest, is justice isn't always fair. And the whole point of that is that this is what your character is motivated by. It's really role-playing kind of like aspect to it. As far as I understand, there's no really mechanical advantage to this, unlike a focus for skills and everything. It's mostly just like what drives your character in this like drive. Like, why would your character be doing this? And it really just helps out with role playing more than anything else. So that's what step number 6 is choosing assigning your drives in your drive statements. Next up is talking about assets. So assets can be tangible and intangible. Assets are kind of like like a weapon. For example, a weapon is an asset. Assets, you can kind of think of it as like something that can make a task easier, or something that allows you to do a task, right? Like, a knife will help you kill someone. It makes killing someone much easier than using your bare fists. Whereas a blackmailing someone, an intangible asset, right? Like having dirt on someone, that is you would need dirt on someone in order to depose them of their position of power, right? So that would be an intangible asset. So having an asset, it just says your character begins with 3 assets. One of them must be tangible. So let's see if it gives. It doesn't look like it gives examples, but the Mentat, let's look at her assets right now. Starting assets. A knife marked with the crest of House Atreides, which we could always refit for House Abkriji. A contact within the space mining community on Arrakis, and a personal shield. So those are 3 different types of assets that are good. I believe there is a list of assets later on in the book that kind of explains it more. I'll find that page here in a second, but those are the kinds of things you want to do. There's things such as quality, which kind of helps out with doing extended tests and stuff like that, but we haven't even explained extended tests and all of that, so don't worry about that too much. Assets start on page 189, and there's a ton of assets that you can get. But if you're having trouble, yeah, just look at these pre-generated characters and choose the 3 assets that they have just to start off with. And that might be good to kind of just start off with, especially since you're newer characters. The last step is step 8, which is your finishing touches, which is choosing a trait based on your character's reputation or personality. Ambition, which is deciding on a goal for your character related to their highest drive. And personal details, deciding on name, personality, appearance, and relationships. Which obviously in the pre-made character it's already kind of filled out, but just kind of finishing all that kind of stuff. So let's see here. Yeah, this talks about all the traits, ambitions, personal details, that kind of fun stuff. So, and then it even gives the commander character, like Justin, you were talking about, kind of shows off all the stuff that this commander character kind of has and everything. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, I got some blackmail evidence. I got a concealable knight, and I have a personal ornithopter.
Yeah, one of those dragonfly, kind of like little hover vehicles for the desert.
Yeah, sweet.
We kind of blew through character creation. Nye and
Did we?
Christian or Justin, do you have any questions about what we were kind of talking about?
I mean, I'm gonna revisit this in the next week because this
Yeah.
is,
It's a lot.
Yeah.
like I said, it's an info dump, and especially without playing yet, it's like you can say these things, but it doesn't like
Mean anything.
mean
yet.
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So then let me go more into the rules then real quick. As you guys kind of like maybe are still reviewing stuff and kind of going over everything. So I mentioned that the main game, how this interacts, how this works, is that basically when you're interacting with the world, let's say I'm like, okay, you are out in the middle of Dune, of the desert, right? You are trying to survive. So I'm going to have you try to make a test. So, for example, being out in the middle of the desert, maybe you have to move pretty quickly to get to some safe rocks and out of the heat of the desert. So I would be like, hey, you're going to have to do a move like skill check, like a move skill test. So Justin, let's say this is your Kara Molly, or however you're going to rename them, your commander character, right? I'm like, you have to make a move skill test. You are going to take your move, which is a 6, and you're going to add a drive to it. What drive would you like to add to it to kind of like get yourself to these rocks as quickly as possible? You have duty, faith, justice, power, and truth.
Okay, well, I mean, all right. So let's be honest about this. I
Yeah.
want to use the 8. Right?
Yeah. Always.
Yeah,
Always.
so, right,
Mhm.
right. I always want to use the 8. So, like, I just don't understand the mechanic of faith well enough, or how, like, let's take a look at the book. Go back to what page? Is faith?
It's pretty open-ended. Yeah, we can definitely go back to the faith page and everything, but that's the thing. Even in the quick start, it says like, hey, your characters are probably going to choose the highest faith and try to justify it at all times. For the most part, you can kind of just do that, like however you want to justify
I'm gonna have
it.
faith in myself that I'm fast and awesome.
That's it. Faith in your legs, right? Like you can
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. So
There's some rocks over there. I'm fast, and the sandworms spirits will protect me.
boom. So there you go. So
The gods of the Spasacado.
So adding together your faith and your move, you have a total of 14. So
Okay.
I'm saying that, well, you're in the middle of the desert right now. You have a still suit on. So this isn't that difficult, and probably but the conditions are harsh. So if you want to move quickly enough to get out of the sun, it's going to be a difficulty of 2. So you're going to have to get at least 2 successes in order to safely get to the desert before, like, I don't know, getting a little bit too hot, shall we say. Something is going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you would roll 2 d20s.
Okay. Hold on a second. Let me pull up a little roly roll.
Yeah.
And all right. So I'm gonna roll 2d20s, and then so I roll that, and I got maybe good, maybe bad.
Oh, no.
I got a 6 and a 1.
6 and 1. They are both great because this is a roll under system. You were trying to get a 16 or lower. And not only did you get 16 or lower, one of those is a critical success as a 1. So that counts as 2 successes. So in total, it was a difficulty.
Oh, and so I would get a what is not a
Momentum.
motivation? A momentum.
Yes.
Yeah, I get 1 momentum, right?
Yeah. The skill test was only a 2 successes to beat. You got 3. Not only did you pass, you make it to those rocks just fine, but you get momentum. So essentially within the pool of points that everybody has, there is one momentum point that somebody can use to use the buy dice to add to their roll. So yeah, so you successfully do that. So that's how the basic skill test kind of works, right? If you were using your focus, for example, if somehow your focus was involved there, which would be stealth, which you were just running to the rocks, you weren't using stealth. But if you were using your stealth, having a focus means you get 2 successes each time you roll under that number, which is great. It basically counts as like a critical success, instead of just rolling that one like you did, which is awesome. Drives, which we already kind of talked about, are just the things that kind of help motivate you. Traits, we talked about before, are basically just, whether or not a test might occur or not, or make a test easier or harder, depending on like your backgrounds and stuff like that. Like your commander has the traits Noble, Honorable, and Bene Gesserit. Noble and Honorable doesn't sound like, if you were in with a bunch of smugglers or criminals, doesn't sound like those traits would really help you in that scenario, right? It might make certain checks more difficult to do. So that's kind of like how that works. Difficulty is kind of how I defined it before. It can be anywhere from 0 to 5, and how many successes you need to do something. Difficulty 0 just means that that's kind of any successes you might get in that check would just add to the momentum pool for you guys. So, yeah. Complications are kind of fun. We'll kind of go more into that as we kind of as you guys roll 20s and everything. Momentum in threat, we kind of just describe those kind of pools of dice that the DM, the game master, and you guys get to use. You can use momentum to buy d20s. You can actually use momentum to create a trait. You can create an asset, or you can obtain information. Those are kind of like some of the things you can do. Whereas me as the game master, add to threat can be added in the following ways. So by giving me threat, which I can use to buy d20s, increase difficulty, non-player characters threat spends, non-player character complications, and also traits, you can add to it by buying d20s to add to your pool. Complications, whenever a player suffers one or more complications on a skill check, they or the game master may choose to add 2 points to the threat pool to ignore a complication. Escalation, sometimes I just make it more dangerous or unpredictable. When if a character performs an action that risks escalation, they immediately add 1 point of threat to the pool. Like, for example, you decide to sneak into a very heavily armed facility. I'm like, okay, that risk escalation, so that's adding threat to the pool. Threatening circumstances and non-player character momentum. So kind of like anybody, when they generate a threat and stuff like that. So, yeah, that's kind of like how threat and momentum kind of work. And then here's the next biggest thing is contests and extended tests. And this is going to kind of go into combat. This is going to tie into combat because how conflict and everything kind of works. The biggest thing that's different with conflict compared to D&D is that it is very open-ended in the sense that it could be dueling, it could be warfare, it could be espionage, or it can be intrigue. How it works is it's by this extended contest and extended tests, which when a contest is when a character is facing another character rather than a situation or static obstacle. In this case, the skill and ability of the opposing character defines the difficulty. So the skill and ability of the opposing character. So for example, let's say Justin, your commander character is doing a contest, maybe an arm wrestling contest. Let's make it fun. An arm wrestling contest against the servant character, Hassan Diago.
Okay.
So essentially,
Drunken arm wrestling.
Yeah, it's 24. So essentially, let me go back real quick.
So 2d20.
Well, how it is that the game master makes a skill test for the opposing character using threat as necessary, and the amount of successes the roll achieves becomes the difficulty for the player character to beat them. So, for example,
Okay.
let me go back to, let's see, page 9. Is this right? Nope. Don't read any of that stuff. Okay. So, for example, we said I would roll 2d20 for his, let's see here. If we were doing an arm wrestling contest, I'll say that he's motivated by maybe power and battle. So that'd be 10 that he's trying to roll under. I don't have the ability to roll 2d20s right now. So, Justin, do you want to roll 2d20s for me?
Okay. I will roll those right now. Your D20 is and 11 and 8.
11 and 8. Okay, so only one success because he had to roll 10 or lower. So, let's see. 24, 9. So going back to this, that is, your difficulty is 1 to beat them.
My difficulty is 1?
Yes.
Oh, I need 1 success.
1 success. So the question is not
Okay.
whether the character succeeds. Yeah. In this case, the game master. Okay. No. So yeah. So go. That's just a simple contest. You guys are arm wrestling. So go ahead and roll your battle plus whatever drive you want to use to justify
my faith in myself because I'm a trained soldier.
Yeah. There you go. You're arm wrestling a servant. You're pretty confident that you're training.
Nice.
We'll do this.
11 and 9, and that difficulty would have been
Was it
more than both of those.
So there you go. So you clear 2 successes, and you successfully
14 again. Yeah, so I got both of those.
You clear both successes. You gain 2 over his 1, and you beat the you beat the servant in that contest, right? That's how.
Oh, well, are you allowed to post, throw in?
No.
You have to do it
Okay.
before.
You are allowed to know the difficulty before you choose to use the momentum, but you have to choose to use the momentum before you roll.
Fair enough. Is the GM bound by the same restriction for threat?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I haven't seen anything where you're allowed to add after you roll. It seems it's always before.
Cool.
So,
but if during that exchange you can be like, I'm gonna use
threat
2 threat
to make
2 threat.
Yeah, to see how many.
I would know that you've rolled the. Do you always go first?
In a
I
contest.
can't remember how initiative works.
Yeah. Initiative will kind of go over in a second.
If that's different than
Yeah.
this kind of thing.
But for example, that is just a contest. In a contest when a character is facing another character, that's kind of how it goes back and forth. In an extended test, the question is not whether the character succeeds, but how long it takes them to do so. So that's when I either set a requirement for an extended test or double the skill level of an opposing character. So once again, we kind of do the same thing where you roll as normal, and if they gain at least 1 success, they gain 2 points towards the requirement. And then, let me go ahead and get to the conflict rules real quick to answer your question more specifically, Justin. But we're gonna wrap up here soon too, because we're getting to the end of our stream. 161 is conflict. Let me get to that page. Because they do have a nifty little basics of combat and action order and taking an action. So let's see here. Conflict overview. Let's look at this. Whoops. All right. Here's a high-level summary of how to make an attack. Let's see here. Well, I might have jumped a little too far. That's okay. You choose. So in conflict overview, it's going to be very much similar to what we were doing before. It's going to be a contest just like we were doing. But in order to defeat an opponent, because we don't have HP, it's going to be essentially every time you beat that person in a contest, you get points based on. You get 2 points every time you win a contest. and then you gain additional points depending on what the quality of the asset you're using, like how good your knife is or whatever you're using in the contest or conflict. And then you're adding points up to equal the skill of the other person. So once you meet up to that skill of that opponent, then they are knocked out from the fight and they can't do anything anymore.
Cool.
Yeah. So essentially it's just like an extended skill check, and then you're just trying to meet their skill. So in this conflict overview, it says how combat would kind of go forth is you choose an asset to use in the attack. Based on the type of attack you are making, choose an appropriate skill and drive, as well as a focus if one applies. Roll your contest against the target. If you win the contest, your attack is successful. If you lose the contest, your attack fails. On successful attack, the outcome depends on your target. If your foe is a minor character, they are defeated. Otherwise, defeating a foe is an extended task, which is what we were just talking about, with a requirement equal to the foe's most appropriate skill. Each successful attack scores points equal to 2 plus the quality of their asset. Once the task requirement has been reached, the foe is defeated. So, for example, Justin, if your character's quote-unquote health, if you were fighting someone in battle, would be your battle skill, which is 6. So that means you would be, if you're doing an extended skill check against somebody, they would have to defeat you at least 3 times with a quality 0 knife in order to actually knock you out of battle, if that makes sense.
I think so.
Cool.
We might have to deal with this when we actually get into combat.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I figured as much too. So there was a lot that we were kind of going over with like conflict and stuff like that, and explain the rules. But I kind of wanted to give an oversight of kind of like how all of that kind of ties together, because I didn't even get to zones or initiative and stuff like that. But we'll kind of cover that in the future. Mainly, I just wanted us to make our house, which I'm very excited to see the house of Abkrigi being made, and their enemy of Tassit. I'm excited to see what Tassit kind of does, and how they interact with you guys. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions over your character creation or doing stuff with that?
I might remake it.
Yeah.
But I would like to reserve that right.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll have a full character by the time we're ready to go next week. But,
yeah, next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
This was fun. All right. Well, as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, and all that fun stuff.
Yes, please do.
And do we have to do
attributions? We sure
attributions.
do. I
Yep.
do.
All right.
Can I do something fun real quick? I didn't ask you guys this beforehand, but I wanted to do something fun. This is an idea I had for a short, and I figured, let's just do it live right now, just so everybody see. So, do you guys know the kind of like the Dune scream, where it's like, like it's on TikTok and stuff? No?
No.
This is gonna make it even better.
It's like vaguely Middle Eastern singing.
Yes. So I want to make a skit of like, or a short of like all of us just kind of like reacting like the scream as it kind of pans over our different faces. So, on the count of 3, I want everybody to give their best kind of like, I don't know, like serious kind of like mystery Dune scream face as best you can.
Like a face?
Yeah.
You don't want us to actually make the...
No, I'm going to take the video and I'm just going to put the screen behind us making this weird face of the thing. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's going to be great. It's not going to make any sense right now, but like in the video, like I'll include this part at the beginning or something like that and just show that and then just play the clip. It'll be hilarious. It'll be great. Trust me.
Very well.
All right. So I'm going to give a countdown, and everybody give their greatest, like mystery, like Dune serious face and everything, okay? So on the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect.
I'll
That's
let
all
you
I
know.
wanted. Okay, let's do attributions. Well, thank you so much to Modiphius for making the Dune RPG. Very, very happy to be doing that. Very, very excited to have. Whoops, don't worry about that. To have that here. We are so thankful to be playing the Dune RPG and to be playing Wormsign. I'm very excited to do this and to get familiar with your system, because I know you've made a lot of other systems that I'm excited to play too. We didn't use Roll20 today, but we will be using Roll20 next week. Roll20 is where we mostly play our sessions and to do our maps and all that kind of different stuff. I've actually made this whole adventure in Roll20. I'm very excited to do that. We're going to be using, we always make characters in Hero Forge, so gonna be an early pre thank you to Hero Forge for allowing us to make characters. Let's see, is there any other attributions we need to do? Oh, the song that we're currently using, it is called Dune Ambient Cinematic. I'm not joking. It's called Dune Ambient Cinematic by Clean Mind Sounds. Clean Mind Sounds. Thank you so much for contributing to that. Last thing I do want to note, if you're even curious about the Dune Adventures in the Imperium RPG, it is currently on sale on Humble Bundle, which has not only like the core rulebook, but a bunch of other rule books and adventures in there, all for like $18. It's a really good value.
Ooh, that's a good deal.
Yeah, it is a very, very good deal, especially because the Dune movie Part 2 just came out. It has Agents of Dune, which is like their starter set, as well as like a full rulebook adventure for after you're done with the starter set. It has a lot of stuff, including the core rulebook, so you can do everything we were showing off tonight. It's the full package for Dune. It's very cool. I highly recommend checking it out. So I think those are our main attributions. So I'm very excited to play this with you guys.
Yeah,
Me too.
it'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening to the info bomb that is Dune. I'm playing it out is going to make a whole lot more sense, especially as we kind of play it. It's just the biggest decision is just kind of like figuring out what kind of character you want to play and just making sure you have all of the stuff to kind of back that up. So anyways, thank you so much for tuning in and for watching us kind of make our characters and make our house today. We're very excited to be doing this every Thursday for the next couple weeks, starting at 8:30 Eastern Time. So, oh, and like Justin said, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. We really appreciate that. And if you're on Twitch right now, please follow us. We love you guys. Thank you so much. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.